The stage is set in ancient Rome, a time when power struggles, shifting alliances, and personal ambition defined the destiny of an entire nation. In this turbulent era, the heartbeat of the Republic pulsed with both promise and peril. Our journey begins in the late 2nd century BC, a period marked by a fading Republican spirit and the rise of larger-than-life figures. Among them, Sulla stands out as a man whose ambitions and actions left an indelible mark on Roman history. Imagine a colossal landscape, where the Senate's debates resonated in marble halls and the clamor of political conflict echoed through crowded forums. It is here that the intricate dance between honor and ambition unfolded. Sulla, a military genius with unyielding determination, navigated this precarious environment. He would later transform his military victories into a weapon to reshape Rome's constitutional traditions and political landscape. In today's exploration, we look at how a series of crises, innovative yet ruthless decisions, and dramatic military campaigns culminated in one man seizing the reins of power. This historical narrative is not just about battles and decrees. It's about understanding the complex interplay of loyalty, vengeance, and the quest for stability in a society at the brink of monumental change. Before Sulla emerged as a dominant force, the Roman political arena was already fraught with tension and discord. The Marian party soared to prominence, seizing opportunities as Rome's citizens navigated shifting allegiances and ideological battles. In a climate where loyalty was as elusive as the wind, the reenactment of the Sulpician laws by the consul Cinna provided fertile ground for both fervor and fury. Cinna's actions, backed by key figures like Gnaeus Octavius and the traditional senatorial faction, set the stage for unprecedented political upheaval. At the heart of this turmoil was the return of Marius, a charismatic leader whose personal ambitions blurred the lines between military valor and political opportunism. As Marius landed in Etruria and rallied troops, his repeated consulship symbolized not only the shifting power dynamics of the era, but also the deep-seated rivalries tearing Rome apart. His dramatic reassignments and the subsequent banishment and reinstatement narratives highlighted the fragility of Roman law when pitted against raw power. These events unfolded in a landscape where the legitimacy of political power was constantly questioned, as rival factions sought both to protect and to obliterate established orders. The Marian party's bold moves, including grants of Roman citizenship to the Samnites, disrupted traditional norms and further inflamed tensions. Consequently, loyalty became a commodity, sold to the highest bidder or the most persuasive orator, leaving the Republic vulnerable to further upheaval. This period of excess, rapid legal reversals, and personal vendettas created a precarious foundation, one that Sulla would soon exploit to consolidate his control. After years of pursuing military glory in Greece, Sulla made his dramatic return to Italy, a return that would ignite a series of unforgettable military campaigns. Landing at Brundisium with an army of 40,000 battle-hardened veterans, Sulla's arrival was as much a declaration of intent as it was a show of force. He carefully secured an oath of allegiance from his soldiers, ensuring that every man's loyalty was tied directly to him. With such an impressive contingent at his back, Sulla knew that military prowess alone could change the course of history. His initial advance into Campania was marked by swift and decisive actions. At Mount Tifata, he defeated the consul Norbanus, a skirmish that demonstrated not only his tactical brilliance, but also the ruthlessness with which he approached his adversaries. As his forces marched further into Latium, Sulla encountered the rising threat posed by the younger Marius, who had taken up the consulship. The ensuing encounter at Sacriportus was a hard-fought and nail-biting battle, reflecting the intense rivalry between competing visions for Rome's future. The momentum stayed firmly with Sulla as he pressed his advantage. In Etruria, his decisive engagement with the consul Carbo showcased his strategic acumen. Carbo's forces, unable to withstand the pressure, eventually deserted him. With his enemies in disarray, Sulla pressed on and finally marched on Rome itself. The climactic showdown at the Colline Gate was nothing short of epic, a bloody contest that underscored the high stakes of internecine strife. As Sulla's legions overwhelmed the defenders, the fall of Praeneste and the tragic end of Marius marked the final collapse of organized Marian resistance. In a series of carefully orchestrated maneuvers, Sulla re-established Roman authority on his terms, leaving behind a trail of victory that was as ruthless as it was brilliant. Once in power, Sulla wasted no time in stamping out his opponents and rewarding his loyalists. One of his most notorious measures was the implementation of the Proscriptions, deadly lists posted in Rome's forum that named his adversaries and marked them for execution without trial. In a ruthless bid for power, Sulla's Proscriptions were both a tool of political terror and a method of redistributing wealth. The names on these lists were not chosen lightly. Each name represented a threat to Sulla's vision of a reformed state. Informers were eagerly incentivized to deliver their targets, resulting in widespread bloodshed that sent shockwaves through the upper echelons of Roman society. This period of relentless purges did not spare senators, equestrians, or influential families. The confiscated wealth was not only seized as spoils of war, but was also used to fund his ambitious reforms and to settle his veteran soldiers. By auctioning off the estates of his proscribed enemies, Sulla was able to secure proper living arrangements for 150,000 veterans, a move that contributed significantly to the Latinization of regions like Samnium and Etruria. Additionally, the setting free of thousands of slaves, who would then adopt the name of the influential Cornelii, illustrated Sulla's commitment to redistributing power and privileges, albeit harshly. But amid the carnage, Sulla's Proscriptions served a deeper purpose. They were designed to reshape Roman society by purging the elements he deemed responsible for previous political instability. Through these actions, he sought not only revenge, but also the establishment of a new order, where loyalty and military service were paramount. The unrestrained cruelty of the Proscriptions underscored the lengths to which Sulla was willing to go in order to secure his vision for Rome, a vision of a state rebalanced in favor of the traditional elite, but now more tightly controlled by a single, iron-fisted leader. Beyond his military conquests and personal vendettas, Sulla had a grand vision for restructuring the political framework of Rome. His aim was clear: to restore the traditional authority of the Senate while simultaneously stabilizing the administrative functions of the state. To achieve this, he introduced a series of constitutional and administrative reforms that altered the very fabric of Roman governance. One of Sulla's first acts was to reaffirm the power of the Senate by renewing the senatorial veto. This measure ensured that the Senate maintained its ability to check decisions made in the assemblies, a key element in preserving the republican fabric even as Sulla's actions hinted at autocratic tendencies. Complementing this, he curtailed the powers of the tribunes by restricting their ability to interfere with the magistrates' imperium. This dramatic step was designed to deter ambitious individuals from seeking the tribunate as a stepping stone to greater political power, thereby consolidating authority in more established hands. The reorganization of the cursus honorum was another cornerstone of Sulla's reforms. By establishing clear age limits for eligibility and mandating a 10-year interval between successive offices, he sought to ensure that only experienced statesmen would assume positions of power. The number of quaestors was increased to 20, and the praetors were raised from 6 to 8. Adjustments that not only expanded the administrative machinery of Rome, but also laid the groundwork for a more systematic approach to governance. In parallel, Sulla reformed the appointment method for provincial governors. By rationalizing the allocation of provinces, up to 10 in number, with former consuls and praetors transitioning seamlessly from Rome to the provinces as proconsuls and propraetors, he pioneered a concept that would eventually evolve into the imperial civil service. This innovation reduced the extraordinary nature of military commands and replaced it with a more structured and predictable administrative system. Furthermore, Sulla created specialized jury courts to tackle grave offenses like bribery, treason, and fraud. The introduction of these courts shifted the handling of such cases from politically charged assemblies to more impartial tribunals, thus improving the efficiency of justice. In a key reform aimed at stabilizing political appointments, the size of the Senate was doubled from 300 to 600 members by including loyal equestrians, ensuring that his revamped institution was populated with supporters ready to carry forward his legacy. Each of these measures, although rooted in a desire to preserve traditional power, represented a fundamental shift toward a more controlled, administrative state, an enduring precursor to the imperial governance system that would dominate Rome in the centuries to come. Amid the sweeping changes launched by Sulla, a young rising star emerged who would later become a central figure in Roman history, Pompey the Great. While Sulla was cementing his control over Rome and Italy, Pompey proved his mettle on the battlefield, carving a name for himself in the process. His military achievements in Sicily and Africa, where he decisively crushed the remnants of the Marian resistance, displayed a blend of tactical brilliance and sheer determination. Despite his relative youth and inexperience in formal public office, Pompey was quickly recognized by Sulla as an indispensable asset. Impressed by his audacity and leadership in the field, Sulla conferred upon him the command of the campaign in Africa. This appointment was extraordinary. It granted Pompey military imperium typically reserved for established magistrates. His successes in these campaigns not only quelled remaining insurgencies, but also bolstered his reputation as a formidable military leader. In a symbolic moment that resonated powerfully through Roman society, Pompey demanded and eventually received a triumph, a coveted honor that underscored his exceptional contributions. Furthermore, he was even bestowed the moniker Magnus, or the Great, a title that encapsulated the awe in which his achievements were held. Through these honors, Pompey's rise was not just a reflection of his battlefield victories. It was the beginning of a legacy that would forever be intertwined with Rome's transformation from a republic beset by internal strife to an empire defined by strong military leadership. After years of reshaping Roman politics through warfare, purges, and sweeping reforms, Sulla surprised everyone by voluntarily stepping away from power. In 79 BC, having successfully enacted his constitutional changes and established a new order, Sulla resigned his dictatorship, a move that highlighted his belief that true governance should not rest solely on personal might. He retired to his serene Campanian estate, seeking the comforts of a life free from the daily pressures of political intrigue. However, even in retirement, Sulla's influence loomed large. He continued to rely on his loyal veterans and the Cornelian freedmen he had cultivated, ensuring that his reforms and personal safety remained intact. His death at the age of 60 marked the end of a tumultuous career, yet left behind a legacy that would shape Rome for generations. Sulla's life offers a fascinating dichotomy, a brilliant military strategist with a limited flair for constructive political vision. Though his ruthless actions sowed seeds of enduring resentment, they also set critical precedents that anticipated the autocratic rule of later figures like Caesar and Augustus. His legacy is a testament to the complexities of power, a blend of brutal pragmatism and a genuine, if flawed, attempt to restore stability amid chaos. The era of Sulla's dictatorship stands as a pivotal moment in Roman history, a crossroads where the ideals of the Republic met the harsh reality of authoritarian rule. By examining Sulla's reforms and military campaigns, we gain insight into how one man's ambition could not only reshape a city-state, but also influence the long-term trajectory of an entire civilization. Sulla's measures to reassert senatorial authority and streamline the administration were groundbreaking. His reorganization of the cursus honorum and the creation of specialized courts laid the groundwork for a more institutionalized form of governance. These changes helped transform the political landscape from one defined by ad hoc decisions and dangerous rivalries to a system that, despite its autocratic origins, would eventually evolve into a more bureaucratic and centralized government. Yet the very methods that secured Sulla's power, most notably the bloody proscriptions and forcible purges, left deep scars in the collective memory of the Roman elite. While his constitutional reforms provided a temporary semblance of order, they were marred by a legacy of personal vendettas and a culture of fear. This environment of retribution not only alienated large segments of Roman society, but also set dangerous precedents that later leaders would follow. In a way, Sulla's reign can be seen as a rehearsal for future transformations. Figures such as Julius Caesar and Augustus would later leverage similar strategies, blending military might with sweeping governmental reform to steer Rome toward an imperial future. Sulla's dictatorship is thus a critical chapter in the evolution from a republic, a system characterized by shared power and deliberate checks and balances, to an autocracy where the leader's word could redefine the law. Ultimately, the story of Sulla is one of contradictions. His efforts to restore order were achieved through methods that sowed discord and violence. In doing so, he inadvertently exposed the underlying vulnerabilities of the Roman system, a system that, despite its brilliance, was unable to mediate the fierce personal ambitions that defined its most turbulent decades. Sulla's impact endures as both a cautionary tale and a foundational moment in the long and storied history of